Welcome back to Count Me In, IMA's podcast about all things affecting the accounting and finance world. We're happy to have you back for episode 149 of our series. This is Mitch Rochong, and I'll be your host getting you ready for today's conversation. In this episode, you will hear from Kevin Au, Bill.com's head of product marketing, accountant, and wealth management. In a moment, you'll hear him talk about lessons learned in the accounting industry and what the profession can anticipate as far as roles changing and skills needed in the future. So, without further ado, let's transition over to the conversation now.
So, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to be a part of Count Me In.
Great. Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan of your podcast. So great to be here.
Thank you. So there's been a tremendous lessons learned and changes across society and business over the past 18 months. We've all been affected by it. You and I were just chatting about it before we started recording. What have you seen in the accounting industry, and do you think those changes are here to stay?
Yeah. So what we see in the accounting industry and small to mid-sized business markets is that the innovation and the adoption has just been accelerated about 3 to 5 years. And while every industry has been disrupted by digital transformation as a result of the pandemic and working from home, right, this industry in particular has been ripe for disruption. Like for years, we've been just saying that over 90% of SMBs rely still on paper-based processes and checks. And that realization of the over-reliance on outdated, labor and manual-intensive ways to do business just really came to light. And as you know, Bill.com works closely with the accounting community, work with 85 of the top 100 firms, plus 5,000 firms in total. And I remember I was talking with a couple of accounting partners, and one partner in particular heard a horror story. Literally, during the pandemic, they had to use Uber and Lyft to transport documents between houses to get them signed. And they even use bike messengers. This isn't sustainable, whether it's pre-pandemic or post. And we believe that this community deserves innovation, and we're here to deliver it.
So when I hear innovation, I think of keywords like automation and AI, the buzzwords that we're hearing all around. And these are powerful tools that accountants need to have in their toolkit. Can you tell us a little bit about what Bill.com harnesses in your solution?
Yeah. So as part of the industry disruption that we talked about earlier, we believe that digital tools that ultimately help our customers and partners succeed, it's really important. Right. And automating those back office tasks and day-to-day activities gives our accountants just actually more time and focus on areas of interest and importance. Right. So like inviting automation into the office ultimately just provides the accounting professionals just more time to take control of their careers and just have more of a better work-life balance. As an example, one of Bill.com's customers is a wealth management firm. And they mentioned that when they use Bill.com, they experience a 70% time savings by streamlining all their accounts payable processes, which just then allows them to do something more that matters to them around financial planning and then managing their clients' assets. An example for us, on our platform, we do use artificial intelligence. And we have a tool that we named IVA, which stands for Intelligent Virtual Assistant. And what IVA is a feature that just uses advanced technologies like machine learning that helps us extract invoices and vendor information from documents in our inbox. So it helps you actually create vendors and bills faster. So it takes information like the invoice number, like the amount you have to pay, the due date, the amount, and it makes it so simple. Like just literally imagine if you had a camera and you took a snapshot of your invoice and it gets automatically loaded in, and an IVA can read it and put all that data very easily for you to just help you get paid and get paid faster. And that's what's really exciting about automation and AI space here.
That is very exciting because it takes time away from the menial tasks, sometimes the tasks that take up more of your time, and allows you to do other things, right?
Exactly. It's always about like the stuff that, what would you be doing on a Friday night? Would you rather be, doing all the manual checks and everything, or would you be going out having dinner with your family? And what we do is like with our technology and systems, it allows you to do the latter.
So it sounds like the accountant's role is expanding and has been expanding, especially during the pandemic. Maybe they're saying, "Hey, Iva, print me out my invoice." I doubt it's voice activated, but you've talked about a new renaissance of the adversary accountant. What does that look like?
Yes. So even before the COVID pandemic, we heard businesses had a clear and active need for advisory services. Right? And during the pandemic, they became the go-to person when they're helping clients through their PPP loans, through changing regulations and so much more. And they were the lifeline. They're literally the heroes, I think, for a lot of the SMBs, offering their clients the best, the latest information and advice to actually keep them afloat. Like it was a really tough time. And we heard like accountants were just working endlessly nights and weekends to make sure like they had to figure out how to do the PPP loans, right? And that was a big thing that they did. And their SMBs were, their clients were also thankful for that. So now, as we're kind of getting out of the pandemic, right, accountants are just taking the opportunities to redesign their day-to-day jobs, especially by putting more time and focus through these advisory services. And they also offer things like client analysis and strategic counsel. And the goal here is not to add more hours to their already busy workday, but instead it's about optimizing the work time. And so, for instance, Bill.com provides a lot of different tools and insights and data. And we believe that data is going to be necessary to provide that efficient and essential path for that advisory services. How? It's that it can raise up all those data insights by unlocking that data in real time in ways that they couldn't have done before, where like in the past, this data would be trapped in some hidden spreadsheet or in a separate system that you can log at. Now you have these systems and tools to bring this up to light and show it at the right time. And so we believe that this shift in like the bookkeeper's role is going to be actually more rewarding. But it's also a really smart time for these firms in terms of growth. And what we did, like Bill.com, in 2019, we had a fire hire index survey. And we just asked them like what they're doing. And one of the things they said is like more than half of the S&P participants are actually looking for accounting firms that offer a wide range of services around accounting, tax, and advisory services. And what we even said that there was about almost half that said that they would stop referring their accounting firms if they wouldn't offer strategic advice. So now strategic advice is almost the norm that a lot of these firms and these clients are looking for.
So you mentioned the end of the pandemic. Obviously, we've got different variations of the virus happening. So there's different things that are happening with the vaccines and all those things happening. But that brings in new challenges and new changes that are on the horizon. Companies going from completely remote to hybrid situations or even fully in the office. There's so many different things happening. So how can companies best prepare for a potentially unpredictable future?
Yeah. So I always learned the only constant in this world is change. And as we always move into the future, change is inevitable. And I believe that treating new technology and using automation, it's an opportunity and it's a key to managing the future of accounting. And what we find is like, finance and accounting leaders will need to be increasingly clear about any changes that their company does in terms of processes or programs. And what this will do is it'll allow you to prepare for that shift and communicate any concerns before anything's set in stone. Right? And as we know, speed bumps are always going to be inevitable. Right? And businesses should plan for this. For instance, having a buffer in their budgets for unexpected expenses, making sure that you have the right technology updates that happens, even have a plan for crisis management that if and when it happens. And lastly, I think one of the things I always think about when you want to prepare for change is like staying on top of those trends. So kind of, joining conferences and just reading what are the things that are coming up so that you have a sense and have a little bit of a North Star of what may be coming up in the not so distant future.
So speaking of the future, let's look into our crystal ball. 5 to 10 years from now, Kevin, when you're looking at an accountant, what makes a good accountant? What are the good skill sets and approaches that you anticipate will make that good accountant in the future?
Yeah, so accountants, I believe their role is morphing a lot. And in the not so distant future, they're going to be called upon to do more than just what I call the traditional bookkeeping, the debits and credits and balancing books. And we've already seen these professionals step into these multifaceted roles, such as financial advisor, wealth manager, and even like a therapist, as our world becomes just more interconnected and just more complex, right? And I believe the truly successful CPAs will be able to balance the client relationships and ad lib consulting with the work that they've been traditionally been associated with. And part of that balancing, that interpersonal and strictly, I call the logistical aspects of accounting, will involve knowing when they could pass off the certain responsibilities and rely on technology. And acknowledging the use of that automation and taking advantage of the capabilities will differentiate the good accountants from the great.
So to what extent do you think those roles and responsibilities will change by, let's say, 2025?
Yeah, there's a lot. And considering with the pandemic that businesses have pivoted already so much in their policies and procedures in a matter of days and weeks. 4 years in 2025 is actually a long way, but I believe that the role is changing. And for the accountants and bookkeepers, it's going so fast from that traditional sense to more of the CFO advisory services. Our focus for us is to help them make this transition, providing the tool sets to make them successful, which is around getting them more automation, leveraging AI to do it. And this also includes investing in employees with quality training, and also includes educational resources to help them ease into these new responsibilities so that when you do have to adopt new technology, it's not a big knee-jerk reaction. And I believe that upscaling will be a big priority in the coming years. What we did see, Deloitte's State of the AI and the Enterprise Report showed that once automation solutions have been established, those good business leaders are actually more sought after than those technology engineers. Why? Because they got to figure out once they have the technologies built up, they're going to have some person with a business sense to make sense of all the data and then actually figure out what you want to do in terms of the business going forward. And as more and more firms transition to digital, we expect accountants to take actually additional responsibilities for managing clients and offering strategic advice. But I think, most important about this role, by having all the technologies used, the accountant's role is actually going to be driven by more what they want to do as opposed to what they have to do. And it's because those increased automations will just allow them more time to pursue more of their professional interests.
So what do you think the accountants should focus on now, as we look at the next, 2 to 4 or 5 years? What should accountants be looking at, or what should they be focusing on? You said what they're interested in, but they also need to worry about, hey, what does my job require me as well? So how do you find that balance as well?
Yeah, so there's so many things. I'm thinking that the job's morphing. So if I were if you're a new accountant and here's the 5 skills that you want to have, here's where I think they are. Number one, because of what we're seeing around the advisory, I think number one skill is that you want to have around the strategic planning. Right? We're just seeing more accountants just doubling the hat. You can be the accountants, but you're the advisor, you're the therapist. So you having the ability to think through strategically what clients are looking for and thinking a little bit ahead is going to really help. Number 2, technology is our friend. And so as an accountant, yes, you're not that technology savvy, but you will have to be able to manage technology and be technology forward thinking. Right? The fact is, using the technology as part of one of your arsenal and your toolkits will really help. And having accountants who will become the experts in managing and maintaining these programs is going to really be helpful. Third one, as I mentioned, is about the customer relationships. Accountants is not simply just doing the books and going away. Right? You got to be able to work closely with clients, address their questions and answers. And you have to build that relationship over time to just be able to adapt and really listen to what they really want and then figure out what you want to offer for them. The fourth one is creative thinking. Our world's just so complex, and the standard way of what we did even a decade ago is much harder now. And so what we see in a lot of accountants is that they have to adapt. Pandemic was just one of the situations where they had to do something that's totally different from what they ever had done before. And they had to think about creative solutions that could meet the needs of every single one of their clients. And so accountants, to be successful, is going to have to be able to think outside the box and outside the books. It's going to become the norm. And then lastly, I think the last skill that I think for accountants to be successful is finding that work-life balance, right? That pandemic collapsed all the boundaries about work and home life, right? We're still all working from home. And as we emerge from COVID-19, I know both employees and employers are advocating for practices that promote just better mental health and permit that flexibility. And so automation and AI are simultaneously putting that time back on the accountant's calendar so they'll be able to take more time for themselves without sacrificing their career aspirations.
This has been Count Me In, IMA's podcast, providing you with the latest perspectives of thought leaders from the accounting and finance profession. If you like what you heard and you'd like to be counted in for more relevant accounting and finance education, visit IMA's website at www.imanet.org.